Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a world that's got everyone talking. Alternative animal therapy.
It's really interesting to see how this field has just exploded recently.
Right. Like acupuncture for your pets.
Mhm.
Is that really a thing? Let's find out what exactly is alternative animal therapy.
Well, it's like anything else. It's using these different techniques. It's like this blend of really old traditions and modern
Okay,
science.
so walk us through what a typical day might look like for someone in this field.
So they'll usually start by examining the animal
Okay.
and really trying to figure out what's going on, like the root cause of the problem.
So it's kind of like detective work, but for pets.
Yes,
Ah,
exactly. And then they'll come up with a treatment plan that's tailored for that specific animal.
so it's not just like a one-size-fits-all approach, right?
Right. And that's the beauty of it. Each animal is treated as an individual. And we actually found some really interesting info on this in the RoleCatcher Career Guide.
Oh, interesting. What did it say?
It talks about how alternative animal therapists really focus on tapping into the animal's own healing abilities. It's amazing.
So they're using things like acupuncture, you mentioned, but what else?
Oh, all sorts of things. Herbal remedies, massage, you name it. It's all about supporting the animal's natural well-being.
So it's less about replacing traditional vets and more about working alongside them.
Yeah, more like a team approach.
I see, I see. So for our listeners out there who are thinking, this sounds amazing, but where do these therapists actually work?
Well, you can find them in private practices, animal hospitals, even making house calls.
Wow, so there's quite a bit of variety in terms of the work environment.
Absolutely. And the job market is really heating up too.
Oh, really? So for someone dreaming of a career surrounded by animals, what's the outlook like? Is there a demand?
Definitely. The Bureau of Labor Statistics actually predicts a 19% employment growth between 2016 and 2026.
Wow, that's a huge jump. That's incredible. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. What's it really like to be an alternative animal therapist? What are some of the pros and cons?
Well, one of the biggest pros is the flexibility. You get to set your own hours, maybe even work from home. And of course, the joy of working with animals and making a difference in their lives.
It's got to be so rewarding to help an animal feel better, right?
It really is. But you're right, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right. What about the challenges?
Well, the guide mentions the emotional toll it can take. Dealing with sick or injured animals can be tough, and it can be physically demanding, too.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's definitely not all puppy cuddles. But for those who are still interested in this career path, what does it take to actually become an alternative animal therapist?
Well, for starters, you'll likely need a degree in veterinary medicine, animal science, or maybe even a specialized field like acupuncture.
So you're telling me a love for animals isn't enough. You need to be a science whiz, too.
A strong science background is definitely important. But, this field is also about understanding the whole animal. And what's interesting is that the RoleCatcher Guide actually puts a lot of emphasis on strong reading comprehension skills. They listed it as 70% important.
Wait, really? Reading comprehension for working with animals? I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, it might seem strange, but when you think about it, you're constantly having to research new therapies and stay updated on the latest studies.
That's true. And then you have to be able to understand all of that complex medical jargon. Makes sense.
Exactly. And communicate it clearly to pet owners.
Right. So you're not just a scientist, you're also a communicator.
Precisely. And speaking of getting ahead of this digital age, we've got to talk about how to stand out from the crowd.
Especially in a competitive field like this.
Yeah.
So what did RoleCatcher have to say about getting your foot in the door?
Well, they stress that tailoring your CV and resume is absolutely critical these days. You can't just use a generic template anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. But with AI being used more and more in the hiring process, how do you even make sure your application gets seen by a real person?
Well, that's the thing. You have to make sure your application speaks directly to the specific requirements of the job. Highlight those skills they're looking for.
So it's all about being super targeted and showcasing your passion for animal well-being right from the get-go.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
You want to make sure your passion really shines through right from the start.
For sure, but it's not just about passion, is it? You've got to have the skills to back it up.
Absolutely. And that's where RoleCatcher's reverse matching system is a game changer.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Tell me more.
So instead of, spending hours searching for jobs and sending out tons of applications,
Right. Yeah.
employers can actually find you based on your skills and experience.
That's pretty cool. So you're basically creating this profile. It's like, here I am, come and get me.
Exactly. It's
So
all about putting yourself out there in the best possible light.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so let's say you've nailed your CV, you've got employers knocking on your door, now you've landed the interview.
Right. The interview is where it all comes together.
Do you have any tips on how to really ace it, especially in a field where you're dealing with both animals, A and D?
Humans,
Yeah.
it's definitely a unique skill set. And that's where RoleCatcher's interview prep comes in handy.
Okay, tell us more about that. How does it work?
They have this massive library of practice questions, over 120,000.
120,000 questions. Wow. That's a lot to get through.
You don't have to answer them all, don't worry.
Okay, good.
The idea is to focus on the areas where you might feel a little shaky.
So it's about identifying your weak spots and really honing in on those.
Exactly. And here's the really cool part. RoleCatcher actually gives you feedback on your answers.
Wait, what? Really? How does that work?
It uses AI to analyze your responses and compare them to your prepared answers.
So it's like having a personal interview coach in your back pocket.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
amazing for building confidence.
I bet. Okay, so we've talked about the overall field, but I'm curious about the different areas of specialization within alternative animal therapy. What are some of the options out there for our listeners to explore?
Oh, there are so many. It's a really diverse field. You've got everything from animal chiropractic care.
Animal chiropractic. I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah, it's huge. It's all about making sure their musculoskeletal system is aligned properly, just like with humans.
Fascinating. So it's not just about treating injuries, it's about preventative care too.
Exactly. And then you've got herbal medicine, which is another huge area within this field.
Herbal medicine. So we're talking about using plants and herbs to treat animals.
Exactly. It's about tapping into the healing power of nature and using those ancient remedies to support animal health.
That's incredible. So are we talking about like giving a dog some chamomile tea to calm their nerves?
Well, it can be as simple as that sometimes,
Hmm.
but there's also a lot of depth and complexity to animal herbal medicine.
So practitioners need to have a deep understanding of plant medicine and how it interacts with an animal's body.
Absolutely. It's not just about steeping a cup of tea. It's about understanding the specific properties of different herbs and how to use them safely and effectively.
It sounds like an art form as much as a science.
It really is. And then, of course, you've got things like massage therapy, which is becoming increasingly popular for animals.
Oh, animal massage. That sounds amazing. I could go for a good massage right now.
Right. And it's not just about pampering. It can actually be incredibly beneficial for their physical and emotional well-being.
In what ways? Give us the details.
Well, it can help with things like relaxation, pain relief, improving circulation, even reducing anxiety.
Wow. So it's
Yeah.
like a holistic approach to animal wellness, addressing both their physical and mental health.
Exactly. And it really highlights the importance of that mind-body connection in animals, just like in humans.
That's so true. Speaking of the mind-body connection, I'm curious about things like Reiki. For our listeners who might not be familiar, can you explain what Reiki is and how it's used in animal therapy?
Sure. So Reiki is a form of energy healing that originated in Japan. It's a very gentle, non-invasive therapy.
Okay, so what does a Reiki practitioner actually do?
They'll gently place their hands on or slightly above the animal's body,
Okay.
and they're basically channeling energy to promote healing and relaxation.
So it's about tapping into those unseen energy fields that surround all living beings.
Exactly. And while some practitioners might use Reiki alongside other therapies, others specialize solely in this modality.
That's fascinating. It's amazing to see how many different approaches there are within this field.
It really is. And I think that's what makes it so exciting. There's something for everyone.
It's like finding your niche, right? That area where your passion for animal well-being intersects with your own unique skills and interests.
I love that. Finding your niche. It's so important.
It is. But it's not just about the technical skills, is it? There's also the ethical side of working with animals. What are some of the key ethical considerations that come into play in alternative animal therapy?
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial. You always want to make sure the pet owner understands what's being done and why.
Right. So it's about educating them on the different therapies, the potential benefits.
Exactly. And being upfront about any risks involved.
Transparency is key.
It is. And a good therapist will always prioritize the animal's well-being above all else.
So if a particular therapy isn't working or if there are any concerns, they'll loop in a traditional vet.
Absolutely. It's about working together as a team to provide the best possible care for the animal.
That makes a lot of sense. Now we've talked about all these amazing therapies, acupuncture, Reiki, herbal medicine, but I'm sure some of our listeners are wondering, does this stuff really work? What's the science behind it all?
That's a great question, and the answer, like with many things in science, isn't always clear-cut. Some therapies have more research backing them up than others.
Okay, so give us an example. Which therapies have the most scientific support?
Well, acupuncture, for example. There's a growing body of evidence suggesting that it can be really effective in treating pain.
Interesting. So how does that work? I mean, how do a few needles make a difference?
Well, research suggests that acupuncture might actually stimulate the release of endorphins.
Endorphins. Those are like the body's natural painkillers, right?
Exactly. So it's like giving your pet a dose of good vibes and pain relief, all in one.
I love it. What about herbal medicine? Any scientific basis for those ancient remedies?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Many herbs have been used for centuries for their medicinal properties, and now scientists are starting to study them more rigorously.
Okay.
And what they're finding is that many of these plants contain bioactive compounds that have real therapeutic effects.
Fascinating. So it's not just hocus pocus, there's actual science to back it up.
Exactly. Now, of course, there's always the placebo effect to consider.
Right, because even if an animal doesn't understand what's happening, they can still pick up on their owner's energy.
And the therapist's energy.
Exactly. So that positive healing energy can definitely have an impact.
It absolutely can. But I think it's important to note that dismissing all alternative therapies as just a placebo might be an oversimplification, you know?
Right, because as we've been discussing, there's often a physiological process happening as well.
Exactly. And that's why ongoing research is so important in this field.
Hmm.
We need to keep exploring those mechanisms of action.
Absolutely. And for alternative animal therapists, it's crucial to stay up to date on all the latest research.
Right. They need to be able to have informed conversations with pet owners about both the potential benefits and limitations.
So it's about finding that balance between being a compassionate caregiver and a science-minded advocate for animal well-being.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this field so unique and so rewarding.
It is. It's like this beautiful blend of ancient wisdom and modern science all coming together to improve the lives of animals.
And it's only going to get more exciting from here.
Yeah.
There are so many incredible advancements on the horizon.
Like what? Give us a sneak peek into the future of alternative animal therapy.
Well, one area that's really heating up is the integration of technology.
Technology. In alternative therapy, how does that work?
Well, think about it. Imagine laser therapy that can target specific acupuncture points with pinpoint accuracy, no needles needed.
Wow. So we're talking about high-tech healing for animals? That's wild. What else is in the works?
We're also seeing the rise of things like pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, PEMF.
PEMs.
Yeah, it uses electromagnetic waves to promote healing and reduce pain.
Wow, it sounds like we're on the cusp of a whole new era in animal care.
We are. It's an incredibly exciting time to be involved in this field.
Yeah.
And the best part is it's all about improving the lives of animals.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about. Well, on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of alternative animal therapy.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been fascinating to explore the science, the ethics, the incredible therapies themselves, and the passionate people who are dedicated to this work.
It's a truly inspiring field.
It is, and to all our listeners out there, remember, you don't have to be a veterinarian to make a difference in the lives of animals. Whether you're considering a career in this field, exploring alternative therapies for your own pet, or just curious to learn more, keep that spark of curiosity alive.
Absolutely. Never stop asking questions and advocating for the well-being of all creatures, great and small.
Beautifully said. And on that note, from both of us here at The Deep Dive, until next time,